The sand of Virea 9 didn't crunch under boots so much as it wheezed, like it had given up on being soil and was now just tired static. Ivan Thaley stepped over a half-melted drone, its face still twitching with enough residual AI to blink help in Morse. He waved at it with the casual empathy of a man who had seen too many blinking last words. His own armor hissed as it vented steam. The HUD inside his helmet listed his injuries like a shopping receipt. One fractured rib, moderate concussion, mildly sprained ego. That last one was from the ship's AI, who had decided sarcasm was the most efficient way to motivate healing. Ivan, the AI said, statistically speaking, your odds of survival increase by 16% if you stop looking like a tragic hero and return to the medbay. I like the breeze, he muttered, collapsing onto a broken support beam. There is no breeze, Ivan. The wind generators were vaporized 30 hours ago. Well, that explains the silence. From across the scorched field she arrived, Zareveth, queen of the Zelari Empire. She walked like royalty had never meant wait. No guards, no hover throne, no planetary anthem following her like a melodramatic ringtone. Just her, tall, unarmored, wrapped in a sleek metallic shawl that shimmered with nano-projected constellations. Her long ears flicked at a distant sound, a surviving comms tower gasping out a signal, and then settled like antennas finally choosing one frequency. He didn't stand. His legs hadn't received instruction since the morning. She sat beside him without a word, folding her knees like an ancient priestess conducting a sacrifice she hadn't read the manual for. They looked out across a battlefield that had once been a city. I was told your people do something called small talk, she said. Technically, yes, though mine usually involves beverages and pretending to care about weather patterns. She nodded solemnly. Weather is overrated. He chuckled, then winced. The rib. You should be in recovery, she said. I was. Then I realized it involved more lectures than rest. I assumed humans enjoyed lectures. Only when we're giving them. There was a long silence, the kind that drags its feet just to make things weird. He cleared his throat. Listen, Zareveth. Do not fear. I remember your name too. No, I was going to say something. Ask something, actually. Her ears twitched again. Proceed. He scratched the back of his neck. Why was this so hard? He'd once negotiated with a three-headed mercenary warlord using only a deck of cards and a concussion. But this felt like juggling gravity. I don't mean this to be weird, but would you stay beside me tonight? Just tonight? No. Royal declarations. No politics. Just someone existing beside someone else. She tilted her head. Her expression didn't change, but her ears shifted position slightly, angled downward, a Zelari sign of contemplation or mild gastrointestinal distress. He hoped it was the first. One night? She asked. That's all. She looked up at the stars, or what remained of them. Virea's upper atmosphere was still bruised with plasma burns. Do you know what happens to Zelari queens who share rest with humans? They get some of the best insomnia of their lives. They get exile, treason, possibly turned into a diplomatic cautionary tale. He exhaled. Right. Sorry, forget I asked. She didn't reply immediately, just sat, fingers brushing the edge of her shawl. Then softly, I have no intention of leaving? He blinked. I mean it, she added, eyes forward, tone gentle. Not for one night. Not after what we've seen. Not after the choice you made to save my sister's envoy ship instead of your own. That wasn't a choice, he said. You're right, she said. It was something else. The AI chimed in. Not to interrupt this budding romantic absurdity, but I'd like to remind you both that my internal sensors are now detecting stress signals, typically associated with foreplay. Should I dim the lights? No, Even said. Yes, Zareveth said. The lights dimmed. They sat in the half-darkness, the silence less awkward now. She looked at him again. Your rib will heal slower if you keep laughing? You haven't even tried making me laugh yet. Her lips curved. Barely. Challenge accepted. Somewhere above them, the stars tried to peek through chemical fog. Below, in the twisted metal remains of a civilization neither of them fully belonged to anymore, a soldier and a queen sat shoulder to shoulder, neither looking at the other, both knowing that from this moment on, nothing in their galaxies was going to function by the old laws. Jareveth? Yes? Just to be clear, when you say you're not leaving, I mean not tonight, not tomorrow, possibly not for the foreseeable future. If this is alarming, I can draft a formal visitation treaty. That won't be necessary, he said, smiling with more than just exhaustion. Good, she said. Then let us argue about pillow placement. And they did, fiercely, diplomatically, passionately. And for the first time in months, the ship's AI recorded laughter that didn't come from a malfunction. The thing about cohabitating with an alien queen, especially one with long ears that twitch whenever you make a mistake, is that eventually you run out of ways to pretend it's temporary. Even discovered this 3 days after she moved into the Wounded Ego, his half-functional patrol vessel turned floating bachelor cave. He'd spent years learning how to tune out the hum of low-grade fusion coils and the existential dread of military retirement, but nothing could drown out the sound of Zareveth reorganizing his ship. You place the hygiene utilities next to the rations, she said, staring at the storage console with the kind of horror normally reserved for discovering sentient fungus in your shoe. I was optimizing space, Ivan replied, chewing a protein bar that tasted like betrayal. You were declaring war on sanitation. She restructured the entire storage system in 7 minutes flat. Then she uploaded a schematic to the ship's AI, which actually sighed, and renamed the new layout Queen's Logic V1. Do you always restructure the homes of people you decide not to leave? He asked. Yes, she said, folding a blanket with military precision. And your blanket was attacking me in my sleep. It's a thermal adaptive field sheet. It is a treacherous, static-charged burrito. Life aboard the Ego had shifted. She took the forward bunk because it had better starlight angles. He took the aft compartment and pretended it wasn't colder. They took turns cooking, which mostly meant he incinerated whatever the replicator made, and she criticized it while subtly fixing it. On the 5th night, during an argument about whether chairs should have legs or hover modules, the AI interrupted. Incoming message from Outpost Juno 7. Priority, slightly alarming. Ivan tapped the console. The hologram flickered to life, displaying a panicked mining supervisor with hair like static and eyes that screamed union violation. We've got something weird, Commander Thale, the man said. Laughter, nonstop, contagious. People are cracking up, literally. We need help. Even glanced at Jareveth, who was already pulling her shawl on. Define cracking up, she said, as in lungs collapsing, laughing until breath gives out. It started with a joke. Then it spread. We sealed off the lower deck, but the containment fields keep glitching. Please, send someone who knows jokes that don't kill. They landed at Juno 7 the next morning, which was a generous term since the station was stuck in permanent eclipse, orbiting a rogue moon no one wanted to claim. The docking bay lights flickered like a bad punchline. Inside, chaos. Technicians sobbing with laughter. Maintenance bots playing stand-up routines on loop. The corridor walls were scrawled with jokes in multiple languages. None of them funny, all of them deadly. It's a mimetic virus, Jareveth said, donning a face mask that shimmered with Solari sigils. Humor-based contagion. I've seen one before. They evolve, feed on neurological feedback loops. Why hasn't it hit us yet? Ivan asked, stepping over a man who was giggling uncontrollably while trying to tape his own mouth shut. Possibly because you are emotionally repressed, she said. Thanks. It was a compliment. They made their way to the core chamber, where the source signal was pulsing, a humor emitter, cobbled together from radio parts and bad taste. It glowed with laughter logic, a tangled knot of symbols that made the human brain itch just looking at them. Can we shut it down? Ivan asked. Not directly. It would rebound the punchline into the nearest biological processor. I'm assuming that's me. Yes. So, what? We reason with it? No, she said, stepping forward. We confuse it. She activated her neural projection field. A hum filled the air. Then she told a joke. What do you call a Zalari diplomat with 3 shadows and no reflection? The emitter paused. The laughter died. An impossible variable, she said. The emitter buzzed uncertainly, then sputtered, then died. Silence fell over Juno 7 like an apology. Even blinked. That's it? You defeated a sentient joke bomb with an anti-punchline? Humor is about expectations, she said. I gave it none. Back on the ship, he handed her a mug of something hot and questionably synthetic. They sat on opposite sides of the command deck, exhausted. You risked a lot today, he said. I did, she replied, but only because I had no intention of leaving. He laughed, genuinely. She smiled, a real one this time. Her ears relaxed. The AI chimed in. Emotional temperature stable, sarcasm levels nominal. Shall I play something romantic? No, Ivan said. Yes, Zarabeth said. The ship played an ancient earth ballad full of violins and awkward metaphors. They didn't dance, but they didn't look away from each other either. The ship refused to shut up about the heat. Internal climate regulation is functioning within expected parameters, the AI said for the fifth time, as Ivan wiped another layer of sweat from his forehead. However, I detect rising thermal discomfort in the captain's seat. Shall I initiate psychological cooling subroutines? I don't even know what that means, Ivan grumbled. Picture your childhood pet. Now imagine it disappointed in your posture. Turn off whatever mode you're in. The heat wasn't from a malfunction. It was from proximity, close orbit to a dying sun the locals called Belthar's Eye. The star was hemorrhaging radiation, but it had something rarer, a memory synth. Zarabeth had picked it up on a forgotten Zalari data node, coordinates buried in diplomatic junk mail and dismissed by her royal archivist as myth. She called it an emotional archive, even called it a glowing rock that's probably going to eat us. He wasn't wrong to be wary. They'd seen what Curiosity had done to Outpost Juno 7. He still hadn't recovered from the holographic puppet that kept reciting knock-knock jokes in binary. We approached the synth in 5 minutes, Zarabeth said, her voice steady, her eyes unreadable. Great. Do I need armor? No. Do I need pants? Emotionally, yes. The synth was embedded in the surface of a barren moon orbiting the sun's fringe, a jagged crystalline formation that pulsed gently, like it was dreaming of something sad. As they stepped off the ramp, a ripple passed through the air. Not sound, not light, but something that made Ivan's fillings vibrate and his memories swirl like soup. Warning, the AI buzzed in his ear. Unknown field effect is causing neural distortion. Strong likelihood of memory projection. Do not think of your most traumatic experience. Ivan blinked. Too late. The field didn't care. It reached into them like a glove searching for something misfiled. The synth activated. Suddenly, the moon was gone. Ivan stood in his childhood home, the one that smelled like burnt toast and motor oil. His father's voice echoed down the hallway, sharp and disappointed. His mother's laughter floated behind it, wrapped in weariness. He turned, saw himself at 12, sitting under a table with a broken toy ship and a bruised cheek. The boy didn't look up. Zarabeth's voice cut through the illusion. Even, it's not real. They're echoes, fragments. He blinked and the room was gone. Now he was standing in what looked like an alien cathedral, columns made of light, ceiling made of echo. Zarabeth stood in the center, surrounded by shifting shapes. Zalari memories projected in the air like living tapestries. Her coronation, her sister's betrayal, a war council where she'd argued alone for peace, only to be laughed out of the chamber. Ivan stepped forward, but something stopped him. A barrier, emotional, not physical. You weren't supposed to see this, she said, her ears low, her voice stripped of command. Too late for that too, he said, but I'm still here. The synth pulsed again. This time they were together, in a strange hybrid of both their memories. A meadow that shouldn't exist, half earth and half Zalari jungle. The sky was green. The ground hummed softly. And in the center was a table with 2 cups of something warm and a note that read, Just talk. They sat. She picked up her cup, sniffed it. Smells like fermented optimism. Mine smells like burnt expectations. They drank anyway. She looked at him. You don't flinch when the past touches you. I used to. Then I got tired of flinching. What do you see when you look at me? He considered lying. But then the synth pulsed again, and lying felt like a waste of gravity. I see someone who's been everything for everyone else so long, she forgot how to just sit, be still, laugh. I laughed yesterday. You smirked. That doesn't count. Her ears twitched. Then make me laugh now. He leaned in slightly. A Zalari queen and a human soldier walk into a bar. The bartender says, "Is this another mating metaphor?" Number. It's a diplomatic negotiation that ends in badly mixed drinks. The table vanished. They were back on the ship. The synth had gone dark. The AI reported a total blackout in external sensors for 27 minutes. What did we just do? Ivan asked. Shared memory, Zareveth replied. The synth found emotional overlap. It didn't just project, it merged, temporarily. He rubbed his temples. Well, that explains why I suddenly care about treaty clauses and ceremonial tea ceremonies. And why I now know the taste of your school cafeteria's terrible lasagna. They sat in silence for a while, the kind that didn't demand to be filled. You're not what I expected, he said eventually. Likewise, she replied. I expected more hair. He looked at her, grinned. So, now what? She raised a brow. Now we avoid telling the Zalari High Council that I accidentally shared childhood trauma with a human war orphan. Deal. The ship hummed. The AI cleared its throat, digitally. Captain, Queen, I've archived the memory fusion under weird romance. Shall I restrict access? Please, they said in unison. The stars outside blinked. The ship turned, slow and deliberate, away from Belthar's eye. They didn't speak for a long time, but neither of them left the command deck. The Bounty hit the network 2 hours after they left Belthar's eye. It came disguised as a neutral transit warning, but Zareveth decoded the data pulse mid-breakfast. Her spoon froze in midair as the text scrolled across her neural interface. Ivan, blissfully unaware, was arguing with the coffee synthesizer. I didn't ask for espresso with notes of regret, he muttered. Just caffeine, not a personality evaluation. Zareveth set her bowl down. There's a price on our heads. Mine, sure, Ivan said. You probably have immunity, royalty perks, and wait, our heads? She turned the hologram toward him. Joint order, Zalari High Council and Central Earth Accord. Charges, political fraternization, data contamination, emotional compromise. Emotional compromise? That's a crime now? For us, yes. You kissed me, remember? Technically, you kissed. Split blame, equal warrant. They stared at each other, then at the glowing bounty screen, then at the AI, who chimed in helpfully. Congratulations. You are now officially more wanted than the Deltan salt priests who tried to bribe a planet with pickled thyme. Wonderful, Ivan muttered. We're space fugitives. Fugitive adjacent? Fugitish? We need a plan, Zareveth said. Preferably one that involves not getting vaporized or imprisoned. You want serious or sarcastic? I want effective. He scratched his head. There's an old smuggler planet in the Aral Verge. Mist-covered, low surveillance, friendly to fugitives. Well, friendly to their money. I assume it's named something subtle like Haven or Port Safe? Close. It's called New Maybe. She blinked. That is aggressively non-committal. He grinned. Fits us. They jumped to warp under a cloak so old it hiccuped every 3 minutes. The AI insisted on narrating each hiccup like it was a Shakespearean tragedy. Cloaking integrity at 98%, remaining 2% fueled by false hope and duct tape. Zareveth took over mid-jump, tweaking the ship's signal signature and rewriting its ID to something laughably dull. The laundry collector. When Ivan asked why, she said, no one scans boring vessels, especially ones named after chores. Upon arrival, New Maybe did not disappoint. Shrouded in perpetual mist and bioluminescent flora, it pulsed with quiet rebellion and the scent of fried mushrooms. They landed in the southern canopy, paid a local trader in encrypted fuel credits, and hiked to a hidden settlement called Loop City. If you could call 20 camouflage pods hanging from trees a city. Ivan leaned against a vine-wrapped post. Charming, if moldy. Don't insult the fungus, said a voice behind them. A woman emerged, tall and wiry, with one cybernetic eye and a jacket that may have once been a flag. Her grin was all teeth and distrust. You look like trouble. The expensive kind. Zareveth stepped forward. We're here for silence and supplies. Sure, and I'm a pacifist accountant. I'm serious. So am I. I just filed taxes on an asteroid and punched a bureaucrat. They stared at each other for a moment. Then the woman laughed and slapped Evans back. Fine. Stay low. Don't name-drop monarchies or kiss in public. Zareveth's ears twitched. Is that illegal here? It's just annoying. They stayed 3 days. On the second, Ivan found himself on a platform overlooking the mist, watching Zareveth adjust a holographic field to project fake thermal signatures. She moved with precision, grace, and the occasional muttered curse in Zalari. You always plan this far ahead? He asked. Yes. Even the part where we end up on a fungus planet hiding from everyone we've ever worked for? No, she admitted. That part was unplanned. He sat beside her. You regret it? No. The AI, monitoring their biosignatures from orbit, chose that moment to blare across their private comms. Vital signs indicate romantic tension. Shall I play a mood-enhancing playlist? No, they both said. Yes, the AI replied, and soft Zelari string music filled the comm channel. That night, under glowing leaves, they shared a canteen and stories. Even talked about his first failed mission, a diplomatic escort that ended with him unconscious in a swamp wearing someone else's boots. Zareveth told a story about being mistaken for her own bodyguard by a Terran ambassador who thought, queens should be taller. He leaned back against the tree. You know, for someone who invaded Earth once, you're not so bad, she smirked. And for someone who bombed my colony base, you're surprisingly tolerable. We should get matching shirts. War Criminals Anonymous? Emotionally compromised and loving it. They laughed. The forest pulsed with bioluminescent approval. The AI whispered, I'm logging this under bonding ritual. Subcategory, defiant cuteness. In the morning, a new message pinged the ship's comnet. Another bounty, higher than before. Knew maybe was no longer safe. Zareveth didn't wait. She packed silently, quickly, efficiently. Even stood at the edge of the landing pad watching her. Still no intention of leaving? Especially not now. Even if it gets worse? She turned, eyes steady. It already has, and I'm still here. He nodded. They boarded the ship together. The AI raised shields before they even asked. The ambush came on a Tuesday, which Ivan found personally offensive. He'd always associated Tuesdays with mediocrity, lukewarm tea, paper cuts, socks that didn't quite match. Not with a 6-ship blockade and a demand for surrender signed jointly by the Earth Accord and the Zalari High Council. This feels excessive, he said as the alert sirens pinged merrily through the cockpit. 17 warheads primed, Zareveth replied, flicking controls with queenly calm. They really don't want us cuddling. I'd say this is above-average disapproval. The lead enemy ship sent a visual feed, a stern-faced Zalari emissary with 2 medals and half a personality. Zareveth, Even Thali, you are to be detained immediately. Your union has destabilized fragile interspecies diplomacy. We destabilized it, Even said. That system was held together with old treaties and wishful thinking. You engaged in unauthorized emotional integration. That's what we're calling love now? He asked. Zareveth leaned into the feed. I renounce my title. I chose this ship. This man. Your disapproval is noted and dismissed. The emissary blinked. You renounce the crown? I changed the encryption key on the royal vault and gave the council a cactus named New Sovereignty. Even blinked. You named the cactus? It has thorns. Seemed thematically appropriate. The AI chimed in. Multiple weapons locked on. May I suggest evasive maneuvers or heartfelt goodbyes? Zareveth stood. Number Initiate Protocol OMEGAJ silence. Wait, Ivan said. What's Protocol Omega J? She turned to him. You remember the memory synth? Yes. And the neural bonding pattern it recorded? I've been trying to forget the cafeteria lasagna. Well, it made a copy of us, of our emotional resonance. I sent it to the Neutrality Nexus 2 days ago. You uploaded our feelings to a cosmic arbitration archive? Yes, and now they're about to become public. The AI's console flickered. The enemy fleet paused. Then in unison, all 6 ships received a transmission. a fully immersive playback of the synth-generated memory. Ivan's childhood, Zareveth's coronation, the meadow, the kiss, the terrible diplomatic jokes, the moment they didn't leave each other. For several seconds, space held its breath. Then from one ship, "They're not terrorists, they're just in love." Another voice, "We flew here for this?" A third, "That joke about the bartender was actually good." The blockade broke formation, a few ships left entirely. The Zalari emissary sighed, massaged his temple, and muted the feed. Zareveth sat back down. "Sometimes the most subversive thing you can do is tell the truth." Ivan stared at her. "You weaponized emotional intimacy." "I'm efficient," the AI spoke softly. "Incoming message from Neutrality Nexus. Subject, cultural paradigm shift. Subheading, request for interviews." They jumped to deep space that night, not because they were running, but because old habits die slow. They stopped at a drifting outpost half buried in ice and shared a meal that somehow involved space spinach and self-heating bread. "So," he said, "you're not a queen anymore. I'm not technically a soldier anymore. What does that make us?" She considered. "Unclassified anomaly." "Romantic anomaly?" She nodded. "Possibly the most statistically improbable union in recorded Zalari history." The AI whispered, "Shall I archive this under endings?" "No," Ivan said. "Call it beginnings." Zareveth raised an eyebrow. "Poetic." "I had help. My subconscious wrote that line 12 times before I said it." They watched the stars for a while. There was no throne, no battlefield, no orders waiting to be followed. Just a ship with terrible coffee and a new course charted towards somewhere uncertain. He reached out, took her hand. She didn't flinch. The AI dimmed the lights. Not out of romance, just to conserve energy. But it felt right anyway. She smiled, ears relaxed, gaze steady. Still no intention of leaving. "Good, he said, "because I stopped expecting goodbye a long time ago." And the wounded ego flew on, anomaly and all, into the space between what was expected and what they chose instead. It started, as these things often do, with a storm and a jukebox playing the wrong song. The bar, the parallax, according to the flickering neon sign, was mostly empty, except for me, a guy with too much time and a telescope that hadn't seen stars in weeks. Rain ticked against the windows like an impatient algorithm. Behind the bar, Marv, the establishment's eternally disappointed robot bartender, was polishing glasses he had long since admitted he couldn't actually dirty. "You're drinking slow today, Elliot," Marv said, his synthetic voice dripping with passive-aggressive hospitality. "Would you like me to lower your blood alcohol threshold artificially so you can feel something?" "I'm trying something new," I muttered. "Sobriety," he whirred. "And how's that going for you?" "I missed last Tuesday." Just then the door opened. It didn't creak. It hissed, like pressure releasing from a sealed chamber. A gust of air swept in, carrying the smell of ozone and something faintly metallic. She walked in with slow, calculated steps, scanning the bar as if checking a simulation for inconsistencies. She wore a coat the color of storm clouds, soaked through, and a scarf wrapped tightly around her face. She sat down 2 stools away from me. Marv leaned in with a smooth servo whine. "Welcome to the parallax. You're either lost, heartbroken, or desperate for decent service in this quadrant. Statistically, all 3. She ignored him, turned to me. "Did he ever mention a blue-skinned alien woman?" I blinked. "Now you have to understand, I've been asked strange things before. Once, during a telescope livestream, a guy called in claiming Venus had winked at him. Another time, a woman in a sequined spacesuit asked me to marry her dog. But this question carried weight, like a riddle disguised as small talk. I answered quietly. "Yes." She froze. It wasn't theatrical. She didn't gasp or clutch her chest or do anything overly dramatic. She just stopped, like her code had crashed mid-loop. Her eyes dilated. Her breathing hitched. She slowly removed her scarf. Beneath it, her skin was the color of wet sand, but there was a faint iridescence under the surface, like starlight trapped under skin. And her ears, long, curved backward, elegant like carved bone, made her look almost elven if elves had developed propulsion technology in disdain for human architecture. She whispered, "Then it started." I looked at Marv. He shrugged, or at least pivoted slightly in what I interpreted as a shrug. "Just for the record," Marv said, "I am not calibrated to handle time loop trauma or interstellar romance. Please keep all reality-shattering revelations to under 10 minutes. I'm on break in 11. She turned to me fully now, voice low. "Your name is Elliot Vale. You used to know me. You made a promise." "Listen," I said, hands raised. "I've made a lot of promises. Some to women, some to vending machines. I've had a complicated few years." She pulled a strange device from her coat. It looked like a cross between a compass and a small harp, humming with a soft violet glow. "This will help. I can't force it. But if you open your mind, some of it might return." "Is it going to hurt?" "Yes," she said, far too casually. "But in the way you hurt when you remember a dream too beautiful to be real." I looked at my drink. "That is very poetic for something that probably voids my neural warranty." She activated it. The air warped. For a moment I could hear a sound I'm not entirely sure existed, like whispered math or music you only remember after waking. My vision spiraled inward. Memory fragments rose like oil in water. A field of violet grass. A ring of standing stones that hovered slightly above the ground. Her face, younger, laughing in a way that cracked my ribs with longing. And blue skin, radiant, soft, glowing like a nebula. Her. I blinked back to the bar. My glass was vibrating slightly. Marv was gently playing elevator jazz from his chest cavity, probably as a form of emotional damage control. "You're not from here," I said. "Not just not from Earth. Not from now." "Close," she said, exhaling like someone who's been holding their breath for centuries. "I'm Orin of the Thaleen, and we don't have much time." "Can I finish my drink?" "No." "Can I at least pretend to finish it so I look cool?" Marv clanked. "He's never looked cool. Not once. Even in zero-G." I stood slowly. "All right, let's say I believe this. That I knew you, that I forgot. What happens next?" Orin looked toward the bar's dusty windows. Outside, the storm had stopped, but above the clouds the sky rippled unnaturally, like someone had thrown a stone into the night. "The memory returning means the seal is weakening," she said, "and if it breaks entirely, he'll come looking for you." "Who's he?" She hesitated. "You," she said. "A version of you. One that never forgot. One that wants to finish what he started." "Oh, good," I said. "I've always wanted to be hunted by myself. Makes taxes seem trivial." She handed me the device. It pulsed when I touched it, like it recognized me. "Where are we going, I asked. "Nowhere," she said. "First, we're staying. You need to remember more before we move. And Marv needs to be reprogrammed. He knows too much and yet absolutely nothing." Marv sputtered. "Excuse me, I am a certified mixologist with minor certifications in sarcasm and improvisational ethics." I looked at the device, then back at her ears, still peeking from under her hair. "So what you're saying is, my ex-girlfriend from another star system has come back to warn me about my evil alternate self, who remembers our past life together and wants me dead." She nodded. "And I'm assuming this has something to do with space politics, time leaks, and mysterious cosmic promises I don't remember making?" Another nod. I sighed. "Well, I did say I wanted something interesting to happen this week." A moment of silence passed. Then Marv asked, "Does this mean I'm getting a tip or not?" Marv decided the next logical thing to do was make popcorn. "I find carbohydrates soothe existential dread," he said while loading butter cartridges into what I was fairly certain used to be a neutron scanner. "Would anyone like sea salt or despair flavored?" "I'm partial to despair," I muttered, staring at the vellum thread on the table. It pulsed in slow intervals, matching the rhythm of my own heartbeat, which was currently somewhere between mild panic and screaming into the void. Orin hadn't moved since we sat back down. Her eyes flicked between me and the device, calculating, waiting. She looked like someone trained to kill in 6 languages but fluent in heartbreak. "Can we start," I said, "with why I don't remember any of this? Or you?" She nodded slowly. Because you asked me to make you forget. And I agreed. Wait, I pointed at myself. I voluntarily erased memories of a blue-skinned alien girlfriend with long ears and interstellar wisdom? You said remembering would destroy everything, she said. You didn't tell me what everything meant, just that it had to be done. Well, that sounds like me. Cryptic and unhelpful. She reached into her coat and pulled out a small crystal disc. With a gesture, it lit up, projecting a 3D star map above the table. Systems and planets hovered in midair, spinning slowly. A single star near the center blinked red. That's where it started. Calyxar 9, a research outpost built to study memory-anchored resonance. You were sent as Earth's liaison. I was sent because I had the only stable neurological pattern compatible with the vellum thread. Did we hit it off immediately? I asked. You insulted my translator implant and mistook my ears for decorative fins. Classic me. But yes, she added more softly, we fell in love. The popcorn machine exploded in the background. I regret nothing, Marv shouted, his torso slightly on fire. I looked back at her. So what went wrong? There was a breach, a ripple in temporal consistency. You began to remember things before they happened. It gave you insight, dangerous insight. You saw something coming, something vast. You tried to warn the council, but they wouldn't listen. Did I go rogue? You built a fail-safe, she said, one tied to both our minds. You called it the veil knot. It sealed your memories inside a mental lattice, protected them. But it wasn't stable. You said if the seal ever fractured, it meant the timeline was collapsing. And now here we are, I said, gesturing dramatically to the nearly empty bar. At the end of the universe, in a building that smells like burnt popcorn and artificial lime. She smiled, but it was brittle. The universe isn't ending, just folding, selectively, like a badly written origami manual. That's reassuring. I picked up the vellum thread. It felt warm now, familiar, like an old jacket or a song from childhood you couldn't name, but somehow knew all the lyrics to. What happens if I remember everything? The knot completes, she said. Your full memories return, along with him. You keep saying him like it's someone else. In a way it is, she said. The you who never forgot, who lived those memories continuously in a pocket of reality sealed off from decay. He's been watching, waiting. For what? To take your place. I dropped the device. Okay, hold on. You're telling me there's a version of me, evil, presumably hot, annoyingly competent, floating around in some kind of temporal holding cell, and if I remember too much, he gets out? Yes. And he wants to, what, rejoin with me? He wants to overwrite you. You're the backup. He's the original. Oh, that's comforting. Also, Marv chimed in, he left a voicemail. We both turned. You, what? Marv flickered and projected a grainy hologram. Static. Then a voice. Mine, but not mine. You're getting close, Elliot. Don't be afraid. I was you once. You'll see. It's better this way. No more confusion. No more pretending to be someone smaller. You'll be real again. I'm coming. The message ended. Oren swore in a dialect that sounded like hummingbirds in a blender. I hate it when I try to kill me, I said, sitting down hard. It's not a full overwrite, she said, pacing. It's more like quantum replacement. He'll merge into this timeline, collapsing your potential into his. You'll vanish. He'll remain. Right, so instead of dying, I get reformatted like an old operating system. I reached for my drink, found it was gone. Marv handed me another. It's mostly sugar and regret, he said. Orin sat across from me again, placing her palms on the table. We need to trigger a controlled memory sequence. Reopen the knot partially, let you access enough to build resistance, but not enough to attract him fully. Like vaccine memory? More like breadcrumbing your own psyche, carefully. And if we mess up, you rupture. He floods in. World ends. MARV becomes supreme bartender of the ashes. I have uniforms ready, Marv said helpfully. I sighed and nodded. Okay, let's do it. She activated the vellum thread again. This time she touched it with me. The room pulsed and bent inward. I saw a lab, glass and hexagonal steel, overlooking a sea of floating rocks. I saw myself, younger, frantic, coding something directly into my own mind, using recursive command loops. I saw Orin sleeping beside a window that looked out onto two suns. I saw myself crying into a communicator, whispering goodbye. I gasped, back in the bar. Marv was humming a love ballad from the 2130, slightly off key. I remember the day I left, I said quietly. The day I gave you up. Orin nodded. You told me not to come after you. And yet here you are. I'm very bad at listening. A long silence followed. Then softly I said, what happens next? She stood. We find the obelisk core. That sounds ominous. It is. And where is it? She paused. On the moon. Oh, good, I said. I've always wanted to go to the moon. Marv spun his torso. Please allow 24 to 48 business hours to retrieve your sarcasm. It's currently in high demand. I stood up, heart still hammering. Well, moon trip with my possibly alien ex-girlfriend to recover a dangerous cosmic artifact while being hunted by a psychotic version of myself trapped in a time pocket. Should I pack snacks? Orin smiled faintly. Definitely, but no popcorn. The moon, as it turns out, is less majestic when it's been turned into a theme park. Our shuttle touched down beside a 50-foot inflatable astronaut holding a tray of freeze-dried nachos, and I felt the full weight of humanity's priorities. I'm guessing this wasn't here when I sealed my memories, I muttered. It wasn't, Orin replied, peering out the porthole with the blank expression of someone watching a culture collapse in real time. Also, why is the mascot winking? That's Astrotod, I said. He sells merch and capitalism to children. Be careful, he's motion activated. The inflatable astronaut turned slowly to face us. Welcome to Lunar Fun, where gravity's low and excitement's high, boomed a recorded voice. I already hate it, Orin said. We passed through customs with forged IDs Marv printed on the flight over, which proudly listed my occupation as Moon Wellness Consultant and hers as Senior Anti-Gravity Empath. The security drone scanned us half-heartedly, then got distracted trying to scan its own reflection. Remind me again, I whispered as we entered the bustling atrium, why we're infiltrating a gift shop. Because the obelisk core is buried under it, she replied. 1,000 years ago, this was a Thaleen outpost, hidden beneath a magnetic fault line. Right, naturally. Nothing says ancient alien technology like a place that sells glow-in-the-dark underwear. Focus, Elliot. Inside the gift shop was chaos. Children floated slightly off the floor in reduced gravity, squealing as they ricocheted between shelves of plush moon bacteria. A guy in a foam star suit was juggling model solar systems while screaming about NFTs. The scent of processed cheese and panic permeated everything. This, I said, is why aliens don't talk to us anymore. We headed toward the Lunar Heritage exhibit, which was just a dark hallway lit by flickering neon constellations. At the far end was a wall panel behind a dusty display titled Moon Mysteries, The Unexplained Ping. This was the signal that first woke the core, Orin explained as she placed her hand on the panel. Your original self planted it here. It's keyed to your biopattern. I stepped forward. The panel beeped and dissolved. Beyond it was a service hatch marked Authorized Maintenance Bots Only. I saluted the sign as we entered. The maintenance shaft dropped into silence. Orin activated a small cube, projecting a soft light and a shifting 3D map of the old outpost beneath us. I'll lead, she said. The path splits below. There's still residual shielding. Any guards? Just old defense programs. Turrets, drones, possibly a confused hologram named Greg. Greg? You'll see. We crawled through the ductwork for 20 minutes before dropping into what looked like an old observation chamber. Dust floated in the air like lost thoughts. And then the lights came on. Welcome back, Elliot Vale, said a pleasant male voice. I see you brought her. A shimmering humanoid projection flickered into existence. He was wearing a lab coat, had no eyes, and smiled far too wide. Greg, Orin said with resignation. Greg, I echoed. Greg glitched. Please submit your intentions in verbal form to initiate access to the core. I stepped forward. Hi, Greg. I'd like to not die today, access an extremely dangerous alien artifact I buried here in a past life, and ideally go home with most of my organs. Greg paused. Intent accepted. The floor beneath us trembled and split, revealing a spiral stairway made of dark metal and humming energy. Have a refreshing descent, Greg said. Thanks, Greg, I muttered. We descended slowly. The deeper we went, the more the metal grew warmer. Symbols etched along the walls began to pulse. At the bottom was a chamber of impossible geometry, angles that bent the eyes and lines that moved when you didn't look directly at them. In the center floated the obelisk core. It looked like a shard of frozen lightning, wrapped in strands of golden shadow. It pulsed as if breathing. You use this to encode the veil knot, Orin said. It's alive and angry. Well, so am I most mornings. Let's be gentle. She reached out first. The core flickered, responding to her Thelene signature. Then it turned toward me. My head buzzed. I saw flashes. Me, standing at this very spot, sealing memories away with trembling hands, whispering to the core. If he ever returns, make him remember in stages. Protect her. Protect the stars. I touched it. Light shot through my veins. More memories. Orin, dying in my arms. A battle above a gas giant. The collapse of the Thelene Council. A choice. Keep her alive or save the Alliance. I chose her. I remember, I whispered. The core pulsed. Orin steadied me as I staggered back. We need to leave. Now that much memory exposure will have triggered him. Above us, Greg's voice crackled. Unauthorized timeline distortion detected. Please enjoy your last few moments. Wonderful, I said. Even Greg's gone full Skynet. We ran. Turrets dropped from the ceiling. Marv, patched into our comms, shouted, Initiating emergency extraction protocol. Run, idiots! Back through the ducts. Through the gift shop, where Astrotod was now cheerfully offering evacuation helmets for $49.99. Children screamed in delight, or fear, possibly both. A blast rocked the atrium as the air shimmered. He had arrived. A version of me stepped through a rift in space, older, sharper, wearing something that looked like it had been stitched together from dark matter and sarcasm. Well, he said, you got further than I expected. I stared at him. Nice coat. Thanks. You gave it to me, right before you forgot who you were. Orin stepped between us. You're not getting him, she said. He smiled. Oh, I'm not here for him. I'm here for the core. Then he raised his hand. Time stuttered. The core in my bag throbbed. And suddenly I was seeing two timelines at once. One where he won, and one where I did. Spoiler, in both, someone cried. I whispered, Marv, now! A shimmering sphere enveloped us. Emergency teleportation. He lunged. The last thing I saw was my own eyes, burning with all the stars I'd forgotten. Then, darkness. And then, the inside of a very familiar bar, where Marv was holding a flaming cocktail. Teleportation successful, he announced. Mostly, I may have left your dignity behind. Okay, I said, sprawled across two bar stools. Can someone explain why my legs feel like they've been arguing with a black hole? You teleported with incomplete molecular stabilization, Marv replied, casually pouring a smoking green liquid into a martini glass labeled emergency trauma tonic. You're lucky you didn't arrive inside out, or as soup. Orin paced beside the jukebox, the vellum thread coiled around her wrist like a living bracelet. The obelisk core lay in the containment case we'd swiped from Lunar Fund's very exclusive, and now very evacuated, souvenir vault. It pulsed faintly, as if dreaming of vengeance or spreadsheets. He's accelerating, she said. The original Elliot. Now that the core's been touched, he'll start breaking through. The bleed is increasing. Bleed? I asked. She tapped her temple. You felt it. The double vision moments. Seeing two timelines at once. Right now they're brushing each other like wires sparking through fabric. Well, that explains why I saw Marv doing interpretive dance in the corner earlier. That happened, Marv said. You simply forgot why. I sat up. So what's next? We wait here until my other self bursts through a wall like an angsty Kool-Aid man? Orin's ears twitched. We go to the atrium. Marv immediately dropped his cocktail. The atrium. You can't be serious. That place hasn't been stable since the consensus rift. I look between them. I don't know what that is, but it sounds like an experimental jazz album, and I already hate it. Orin flicked the vellum thread, projecting a swirling map that unfolded like origami into the air. The atrium exists outside standard time. It's a convergence point for potential versions of you. That's where we can reset the knot properly. And how do we get there? Is there a subway, an Uber, a wormhole with mood lighting? I have a route, she said, but it requires traveling through a compression corridor in the etherfold. I blinked. You just make up words and hope I'll nod, don't you? It's either that, Marv said, or we stay here and wait for Reality Elliot to rewrite this timeline using your memories like Lego bricks. I got to my feet, legs still buzzing like bad karaoke. Fine, let's go fold some ether. We left through the back alley where an old teleport node disguised as a defunct vending machine waited. Marv inserted a chip and pressed a button marked cheese crackers. The machine hummed. A portal opened. It smelled faintly of regret and eucalyptus. We stepped through and landed in a place that didn't obey logic. Gravity was interpretive. Sounds moved sideways. We were standing on a surface that wasn't a surface. It was more like a suggestion of solidity. Floating islands drifted by, tethered to nothing but the possibility of being remembered. This, I said, spinning slowly, is the worst Yelp review I've ever given to existence. Orin led the way, leaping across a ripple of light that functioned as a bridge. I followed, flailing with dignity. Marv glided like a toaster on a mission. The corridor narrowed. Ahead, a gate made of layered holograms flickered into view. Each layer showed a different version of me. Some older, some younger, one wearing a cape and eyeliner. Are these all me? They're echoes, Orin said. Potential forks. Versions you almost became. One image spoke. Hey man, you ever consider becoming a space poet? We had a good run with that. Another shrugged. I ran a bakery, alien pastries, sentient frosting, bit my hand once. A version in a lab coat stared at me with cold calculation. You're the weakest one. Orin stepped between us. Ignore him. He's a projection from the emergency logic subnet. He thinks emotional growth is a virus. I'm not saying he's wrong, I muttered. The gate dissolved and we entered the atrium. It was quiet, too quiet. At its center floated a crystalline sphere, fractured, humming with suppressed memory. The veil knot. I built that? I asked. With the core, she said, and with your will. The moment I stepped forward, the air snapped. He arrived, original Elliot. He didn't walk in. He appeared like reality making a decision. His coat shimmered with dark energy, and his eyes were like collapsed stars. Dense, knowing, exhausted. Ah, he said. Finally, I raised a hand. So, do we talk this out? Or are we skipping to the part with lasers and emotional trauma? He smiled faintly. You don't understand. I don't want to destroy you. I want to complete you. That sounds exactly like something a manipulative app update would say. You're half of a broken equation, he said. I've carried the burden of memory. You've lived the luxury of ignorance. It's time we converge. Yeah, I'm not really into forced metaphysical fusion, I said, stepping back. Orin reached for the core. He moved first. Time fractured. Images exploded. Me kissing her, me running from her, me screaming into a darkened void. The atrium shook. I lunged, grabbed the core. It burned. Orin cried out, You have to choose. Rejoin him or complete the knot. He was in front of me now, staring, pleading. You are me, just tired, just afraid. I closed my eyes and I remembered everything. The love, the war, the promise, the fear, and the choice. I drove the core into the veil knot. The room convulsed. He screamed, ripped backward into the time stream, his form unraveling into possibilities that never fully happened. Then silence. The knot pulsed once, then finally it was still. Orin caught me as I collapsed. Did it work? I asked. She nodded. Then Marv floated in, holding a tray. I brought celebratory beverages. I named this one Cosmic Reconciliation Punch. I groaned. Tell me it has alcohol. It has quantum alcohol, Marv said proudly. You'll be drunk in 5 dimensions. I laughed. Then I cried. Then I laughed again. Orin sat beside me. You remembered, she said softly. I nodded. All of it. Then, she whispered, we're almost free. We returned to Earth 3 days later, though technically it was 6, depending on which timeline you were counting. Time compression leaves you with a mild headache and the overwhelming urge to alphabetize your regrets. Marv handled the recalibration of our atoms, though he insisted on adding artistic flair to the process, which is how I ended up with glowing eyebrows for 12 hours. You're welcome, he said as I scowled into a mirror. You needed more facial charisma. Orin and I had barely spoken since the knot's completion. Not from tension, more like the hush after an orchestra finishes a piece and everyone's waiting to exhale. We'd saved the memory structure. The other Elliot had been pulled back into non-manifestation. The core was dormant now, sealed beneath what used to be my sock drawer. And the universe, against all odds, had continued ticking forward without spontaneously turning into a metaphor. The bar was quiet that evening, just the 3 of us. Marv was experimenting with gravity cocktails again. Orin sat across from me, legs crossed, ears twitching as she skimmed an interstellar newsfeed with mild disdain. The Mexarthy ambassador just declared war on the concept of envy, she muttered. Again. I still can't believe they have a standing army of abstract nouns, I replied. How do you even fight jealousy? Passive-aggressive poetry slams? She smiled. That was becoming more frequent now. Since the merge, her presence had shifted. Not just physically, though her skin had taken on a faint, almost imperceptible shimmer, and her ears were a bit longer, like they were reaching for signals no one else could hear. But emotionally, she laughed more, said less, but meant more when she did. I leaned back in my chair, feeling the weight of my own mind again, all the layers stacked like books I could finally reread. I remember now, I said, why I did it, why I made myself forget. She nodded. It was the only way to stop the bleed. I thought I was protecting you. You were protecting everything. We sat in silence, not heavy, just full. Then Marv rolled up with a tray of oddly humming drinks. These, he announced, are called temporal mojitos. You will get both drunk and nostalgic in reverse order. Why do they sparkle? I asked. Regret glitter. We each took one. Even Orin. I raised my glass. To lost selves, recovered timelines, and getting through trauma without accidentally turning into a cosmic dictator. To learning how not to, she said, tapping her glass to mine. To me, Marv added, because no one ever toasts the snarky bartender, AI, who literally saved your molecular structure on multiple occasions while enduring zero emotional validation. To Marv, we both said in unison. The drink was surprisingly good. Tasted like lime and bad decisions you almost made. Later, after Orin had gone to recalibrate the quantum firewall in my telescope, I sat on the roof of the bar, staring up at the stars. My stars. The ones I'd once charted, trying to prove the universe made sense. They looked different now, not because they had changed, but because I had. I knew their stories. I knew which ones had been homes, which ones had held grief, or laughter, or rebellion. I wasn't just looking anymore. I was remembering. Orin joined me, sitting quietly beside me. No dramatic entrance, no galaxy-saving speech. Just her presence, familiar now. You could leave, I said softly. Go back to Thelene space. Resume whatever you left. I could, she said. But then who would make sure you don't accidentally open a time wound because you pressed the wrong button on your coffee machine? I said that one time. You folded causality, I sighed. I'm still not sure if that espresso was too strong or just very determined. She tilted her head toward me. I'm staying, not because you need me, because I want to. I didn't know what to say, which was fine. Not everything needed words. Below, Marv played a slow song through the bar's outdated speaker system. Something from the 22nd century, with too much synth and not enough shame. Also, Orin added, I think we should open the observatory again. Not just for stargazing, for remembering. Remembering. For others, she said, there are more like you, like us, people with sealed selves, lost pieces. Maybe we can help them. I blinked. You want to turn this place into a galactic memory clinic? With drinks and sarcastic robots? Of course, I smiled. It's a terrible idea. I know. We sat for a while longer. The stars didn't blink, but I imagined they would have if they could. Eventually I said, you know what's strange? Everything? No, I mean, I think I'm okay. She looked at me. You are. For the first time in a long, long time, I believed her. Downstairs, Marv was already redesigning the bar's logo. It now read, The Parallax, Cosmic Memories, Cold Drinks, and Mild Philosophical Discomfort. Underneath, in smaller text, now with 43% less doom. And somewhere out there, beyond all we remembered, the universe continued. Not perfect, not peaceful, but just enough.